back to the Business Book Challenge by the Coaching Network. My name is Maria Medina, and I'm your business and networking coach. Today, we're going to be looking at The Go-Giver by Bob Burg and John Mann. Much like The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, this book follows the story of a man, Joe, who is looking to succeed but is very frustrated with what little progress he's making, and he meets a mentor by the name of Pindar that teaches him the 5 laws of stratospheric success. The first law is the law of value, and Joe learns this through a restaurateur who is able to provide value to his customers for more than just the food that he serves at his restaurant. He's able to provide a full experience to add to the overall value of what people get when they go to his restaurant. And I've talked about this before, and I recently actually had a session with JT Fox. He mentioned you want to under promise and over deliver. The last thing you want to do is over promise and under deliver. You want to make sure that you're leading people into the belief that they've gotten more value than what they originally came in thinking they would get. They're not just getting a meal, they're getting a full experience. The second law that the book touches upon is the law of averages, which is the law of compensation. They talk about the more people you serve and the more people that you serve well, the more highly compensated you're going to be. Because eventually you will become sought after and you'll have the privilege of being able to, when allowed by law, raise your fees. The more people want you, the more in demand you are, and the more people that you're able to help, the more likely that you're going to get a higher compensation per transaction, or you're able to increase the number of transactions that you have and thus get compensated more. An example in the book is simply about the law of averages because they use an example about a realtor that's able to then offer more deals to clients and thus get compensated more. But what I like to think of this compensation aspect is you want to make yourself wanted. You want people to want to do business with you, because what then happens is if you have enough demand, you're able to charge more for your goods and your services. So if you have a product or service that is providing a higher value than other people anticipate, people are talking about you, they're sending you more business, you're able to intake more clients, and you are sought after as either the expert in your field or the person that's able to deliver a lot of value, then you're more likely to get compensated more. The law of influence is the third law that this book touches upon. And I really like this example because I work with a lot of financial advisors, and I always tell them about that trust and that value portion in the equation that I've shared with you before, which is people like to do business with people they know, like, trust, and value. And if you focus on that trust and that value, and people know that you're ultimately looking out for them, you're making recommendations that are going to benefit them, they're more likely to then seek you out and you have bigger influence with them. They are more likely to not question what recommendations you make and do them because they know that you're looking out for them. So when you're doing this, you want to stay in trust with them. You want to keep that trust. Don't break that trust, because as soon as you lose it, it is much harder to get it back. So if you're working on that value, increasing that value and increasing that trust, when somebody needs something else other than your goods and services, they are also going to come to you for that recommendation, and you're going to be able to influence them much easier because they know it's established. They know that they can trust your opinion. They know they can trust your recommendation because ultimately, yes, they are there for what's in it for me, and they know that it's going to benefit them if they listen to you. So the more sought out after you are, not just for your good or service, but for other services, the higher that law of influence will be, and the better you'll get at being able to help other people and other businesses by making recommendations and sending referrals. And this takes us into the other law, which is the law of authenticity and being genuine with your interactions. A lot of people can spot if you're lying to them or not being genuine with your interaction, and you're just in it for what's in it for me. They can see that. They can see through your schemes. They can see you through trying to sell them in a different way. What you really want is to show that you're authentic. What you're trying to provide is a good value, and they're able to trust you with the decision that they're making. So it stems from the other three as well. And you want to make sure that they are trusting the decision that they're making when they're doing business with you. And the law of authenticity allows them to get to know you better, which also allows them to relate back to you. Then, in turn, feeds into that influence factor. People are more likely to listen to people that they can relate to. People are more likely to hire people that they're able to then, hey, I can be like this person if I just follow this success formula. They're more likely to engage with you, listen to you, buy your product or service, and work with you in a way that they know is going to work because they know you. Again, they know, like, trust, value you. You want to work on all those factors in that sentence so that it works all overall for your success. And the final law, the law of receptivity, Pindar shares his own story, which I think a lot of us struggle with because we're scared, because we don't want to admit that we need help. We don't want to ask for help. Maybe we have a little bit of imposter syndrome. And when somebody compliments us, we don't want to accept it. We don't want to believe it. But what Pindar speaks about in this book when he's sharing his story with Joe is about that balance. And I truly believe in this because I always tell my people it's all about giving, and eventually you will receive. There is that balance in the universe that will eventually come back to you. And I often say it comes back to you tenfold, 20-fold, especially if you're giving from an authentic space, not wanting anything back, not expecting anything back in return. If you're connecting with people on a genuine basis, you're trying to help people because you're going to be good for them, providing value above and beyond, ultimately people are going to trust you, they're going to value you, and they're going to want to return the favor. And I've read a book as well that I will most likely go through, which is called Influence, the Science of Persuasion. And it talks all about how you're able to influence people when they know that overall, if they trust you, they are going to be better off. They're going to benefit from the interactions and from following your advice. So again, you're giving back to people, but make sure that you're open to receiving that help, receiving that criticism that you may need in order to improve yourself. Be open to that because the universe needs to balance itself out, as Pindar mentions in the book. As much as you give, you're going to receive. Be open to that and make sure that you're accepting help when it's needed, asking for help when it's needed, and also believe when people tell you that you've done a good job. Yes, be humble, but understand that if you're doing a good job, people will want to reciprocate and they will want to help you in return. Being open for that allows for a more balanced relationship between individuals, which then makes that relationship more long lasting. So you're able to help people, allow them to help you. And remember these 5 laws as you're going out there, you're looking to achieve your goals, and you're working towards your success. This book was actually introduced to me by my next guest, and I'm always open to learning from other people, which I encouraged that conversation when we were talking about, hey, what's a good book for us to discuss? And we were talking about how people forget about that value of giving, and they get stuck in that sales mentality of what's in it for me. You need to be looking out for other people. And I like to link it back to that quote, which is we rise by lifting others. If you help others, they will help you in return. Now that we've learned a little bit more about that giver's gain mentality, how to really add value and differentiate yourself, I wanted to bring on a special guest that I actually met while I had my last business, which was a print shop. David used to work for a PR company, and now he has his own company. So I'm really interested to hear his perspective of what he does with his photography business and how he does that with value, with changing things up so that he really stands out for his clients. Please help me in welcoming David Roth with DHR Headshots. David, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much, Maria, for having me. My name is David Roth. Like you said, we go back to your print shop days, and it was always a pleasure dealing with you. Since I left the PR world, I did start my own niche business. I'm a headshot photographer. I specialize in making humans look and feel more comfortable in front of my camera, and generally just spend my life talking and dealing with humans. So I definitely experience it all through that. But my passion is photography. I think more than photography, my real passion is connecting with people. And that's what my business lets me do. I grew up the kid of an entrepreneur. So I think that this whole thing was like, I don't want to say predetermined or predestined. It certainly was never pushed upon me. If anything, it was probably pushed upon me to not be an entrepreneur. But here we are. It's the only way I know. And thankfully, I have an amazing wife who understands that.
I think you get that with a lot of entrepreneurs, that little bit of a roller coaster where some of them like, yeah, you should totally do your own business. And then you have really sucky days and you're like, I should never go into business. So I understand where you're going
Yeah,
from there.
I think like, as I get older, I realize that why does it take getting older to realize that? But that's part of the beauty of it. But like, we're just all so different. So, what's normal for one person is not for someone else. What's comfortable for somebody is not comfortable for somebody else. And all that's fine. We are what we are.
I think that speaks exactly to what you provide with photography. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, where the book tells you you need to make sure that you're providing value above and beyond that end product, above that beyond the service that you're providing. So how do you do that in your photography world?
From a technical aspect, of course, I study and surround myself with people who do what I do so that I can stay at the top of my game. And I think that goes for any of us. And that's value that's kind of expected. Of course, there's a consult and the things that you do when you're trying to gain business and trying to really get to know someone to understand their needs. But I think most importantly, the most value that I bring outside of trying to be a generally pleasant human being is that I own my zone. 4.5 years ago, when the pandemic spurred it on in a lot of ways, I was an event photographer and the calendar of events was gone. So it was very important to find a niche and something that was going to help me forge forward. And when I found headshot photography, it was hands down the thing that was most closely connected to what I felt I should be doing on this planet. So I took that and ran with it. And really, in that moment, you scare a lot of people because you say, my zone is headshots. That's to me in my world, that is here to here, here to here, and it serves a really interesting purpose in today's world. But I own my zone. And if it's not in my zone, I'm adding value to my clients by telling them, you should go over here to this other person because this is what they do and that's what you need. So if somebody needs to up their digital presence, their online presence, and all these things that we use photographs for, that's my zone. I'm here to make you look great and actually have some fun while doing it too.
I find that a lot of people often hesitate to do that. So I'm glad you mentioned that, which is the collaboration and the partnerships that you can establish with people in your own industry. Like mine with coaching, there's a million business coaches out there, but there are some that are really niche down. If you need networking advice, I'm always here for you, right? If you need to run a print shop, that's what I'm here to help with. But if you need financial help, although I can help you with, I know other coaches that specialize in that and they're not my competition. That's where that partnership is. And I know that then that customer is going to come back to me because I know the value that I provide by giving that partnership to them, sending them to the person that's actually going to help them. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that with partnerships. As you're building those relationships with people, it's very important as well to establish a relationship, which then gets you those referrals. So how do you work with your clients in a way that they see you as that expert, they know exactly what you do, and when they encounter somebody out in the wild in the networking world, they'll refer them back to you? How do you establish that relationship?
And so much of this and so much of what the Go Giver covers is like being human. And I know it's very tree hugger, but I can't, I can't express how important it is to just really be yourself. And it can take a while to get there. And we may never know exactly who we are. And we're just waking up and trying and putting our heart and soul into something. So I think that being human and being an open book and allowing people to have business is business. And of course, you have to be professional, but getting them into your world and showing that you're more than just a headshot photographer or whatever your profession is something that's always helped me get on the same page as somebody. And vibe, it's been a while since I used the word vibe outwardly like this, but it's always in my head. And it's one thing that this niche that I found has really showed me. And I would imagine that it carries over. When you person's vibe, what other humans on earth they belong with, who else they should be talking to, dealing with. And in a way that's like almost like this superpower, because when you have that value to give, when you say, oh my gosh, Maria needs to know Susan because they're so like, and it just helps cut through a lot of the stuff that networking can drag us down with. So that's something that I absolutely love to do, is try to let my people know, my clients know that I'm just a dude. And this is how I spend my life. And I want to help you address your needs, whatever they are most specifically. And I think also in that same breath, we touched on it just a little bit too, but I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. And it can be awkward sometimes, but I've learned to just power through it. And then you're always ready to manage that art of the back pedal if you need to. But like people don't always, they're not always ready to it. But like, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and not be afraid to be blunt enough to do that.
And part of that is knowing that you're the expert, you're bringing this value to the conversation and that confidence and like, hey, I know you said your left side's your good side, but your right side's actually your good side. And if we position your face this way, and I always like to tell my clients and my contacts, the customer isn't always right because that quote got cut and the customer is always right when it comes to, I believe it was fashion, right? But they're not always right when it comes to the expertise in your business. You are the expert in your business and you need that confidence level to be able to advise them appropriately. And I like
Yeah.
that you mentioned vibe as well.
I don't know, vibe. I love the word vibe in general, but like overall, like, it just became clear to me that you need a formula. I'm not an analytical person. Numbers drive me crazy. Fortunately, I don't have to spend my life dealing with them that much. But a formula and a process is always going to be helpful at any level, at any stage to be integrated into your business. And for me, it just became very clear that with repetition of my processes, I was going to build confidence and that was going to knock down fear. So it's again, I think another thing that people probably do in all industries, when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, that can also be a slippery slope in itself. And you always have to be ready for where the next offshoot is and where things evolve. But yeah, for me, repetition builds the confidence that knocks down the fear to just do it, get it done.
I think that confidence also feeds into your reassurance that you're doing the right thing, you're working how you should be working because you know this process is what it is. It has worked, it's been proven. And I find that a lot of people actually go into franchises for this reason. They want to buy into that process. They want to know, hey, what works? What can I do? What do I need to follow in order to make my business work? For those entrepreneurs that don't have that structure and maybe are relying on feedback from the outside world, and maybe you can share an experience where you've received some sort of constructive criticism that you took in and you really valued and you worked at it and helped your business. How can you deal with constructive feedback? And feel free to share any examples.
Oh man. So it just feels like one of those another part of growing up topics because I'm coming up on 40. I always joke that in my 20s I knew everything. And in my 30s, I realized I knew nothing and needed all the help in the world that I could possibly get. And I suspect that my 40s may be similar, although we'll see what's to come. But for me, it was about finding community within my industry. And this plays into the Go Giver just so much because I have a community of headshot photographers around the world that I can meet with daily, weekly, monthly, as often as possible. I am not kidding when I say that the headshot crew has a 24/7 Zoom room open for people like me to gather. So I always, it's people that come to me in my world are usually in either a transitional period, maybe they're changing jobs, maybe they're starting a business, they're usually making moves. So it's always fun for me to kind of see where exactly they're at in that process. And I'm guilty every time. I think I asked you last week or 2 weeks ago when we chatted, have you found a community of people that do what you do, who are ready and willing to just support and help? And that's what this last half of my 30s has really been gifted to me. And I give credit to my mentor, Peter Hurley, and this community because my gosh, how much value is there from communicating with people who do exactly what you do and run into those same wins, losses. So anyway, back to your question. I get beat up all the time by my buddies, guys and gals out there that do what I do. When we see stuff that's not right, it's that same blunt mentality that I said before, and you just got to be ready for that. And for me, it's a fun part because I'm 4 years into this community now, and admittedly, not always as present as I want to be or should be, but that's another topic. But you can see it clearly when someone new comes into that community. You can tell at the first hit of constructive criticism whether they're going to be back tomorrow or not, whether you're going to see them next week or not, because we're human and we are emotional and we are passionate and we're not always ready for that. So I am fortunate that through 35 years of life at that time and a pandemic that was hitting, I was ready to be told, that's not how we do it. Try it like this. Being open to that, I think, is super important. And then also coming into the realization that even regionally, I've got people in this community within 10 or 15 miles of where I do business that do the same thing, is just knowing that there's no competition. You kind of touched on that. This is a collaboration mentality. If you keep helping people elevate and up that game, all you're doing is leaving the competition behind. You is with you. You can tap on when you need something. You is ready to tap on you when they need something. So it's super valuable for me, absolutely indisposable to me and my business. So I would always implore people, on topic with the book, who's out there ready to give, because my gosh, over and over again, I'm just seeing that successful people like to see people succeed. And as a kid, I would have bet anything that it was the other way.
I love that. And then you touched on a few topics there that the book really emphasizes. And you want to be confident, but you also want to be humble enough to realize that there's people out there that know better. You know the industry better. They've had more experience than you. They're able to help that, and being open to listening to that. And I actually have a little fun fact that my wife uses. So your 20s, you know everything. Your 30s, you nothing. And in your 40s, you don't care that you nothing.
Yeah, it feels like it's coming. It feels like it's right about there. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So
Yeah,
that's definitely going to
for sure.
help
I love that.
with, hey, this is what I've been doing. It's been working. Let's carry on doing, and let's stop caring so much. And we spoke about this, that people pleasing aspect, doing things for other people, and just focus on
Yeah.
yourself, focus on your own growth, and leave the competition behind, like you said.
And it's weird, right? Because the world has changed so much. And like I laugh when I think back to my father using the Rolodex and putting down things in it. And it's just like, look at the world now. We open our phones and our computers and we are instantly in people's lives. I know we're not, but they are. So you think that there was a time where Rolodex and making sure you knew your clients' kids' names and how old they are, and like these things that people utilize as tools in doing business, gaining trust. They didn't have a window into your life back then. It was just a name on a Rolodex, and maybe you got a Christmas card or something. Like, you can be as accessible as you want today. So it can feel that much more genuine, I think. Like, I'm never asking about what somebody's kid is into or up to, or that, just to try to get business. I have an 8-year-old daughter. I want to know this is just life here. So I think the more we just merge life and business with regard to the human aspect, the better we're all going to be. And then mainly just like summarizing the way I feel about the book, it's kind of just like, be willing to give and don't be waiting for something to come back, but be ready and open to receiving it if it does, because it's coming back. Yeah.
And that's exactly what the book says. It says just give and be receptive when that comes back. Thank you so much for your time today,
Thank
David. If
you.
our viewers want to reach back out to you, please let them know what the best way is. Share all your links.
Sure. I would love to hear from anybody. My DMs are always open. You can reach me online on my website at www.dhrheadshots.com, and then on Instagram as well, dhrheadshots. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been a lot of fun. I miss you on the East Coast.
You're not the only one, and I miss
I
everybody
know.
over there too. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, are you done with California? When are you moving back?" But so
I'll
far,
never
I'm
say
really
that.
enjoying the adventure giving over here, and I'm really excited to watch the coaching network grow. Thank you, everybody, for watching today's episodes. Please make sure that you tune in next week. We're going to be discussing other interesting books, much like this one, and one actually will feed back to something that David mentioned, which is social media and what you see on social media that people may share or may not share. So tune in for that. Thank you again. Thanks, David.